local forecast.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Weather Scope. We have, of course, a lot of interest in the tropics, an area of low pressure which is doing its best to intensify this afternoon. Reconnaissance has been in there, and I believe you had the skinny on that.
I do have the skinny this hour, and it looks like what they have found is they've made almost a cross-section of the storm. Is a lot of the tropical storm force winds are actually on the eastern semicircle. The western semicircle seems to be a little bit void of that right now, but as you'll see from the satellite pictures coming up, this is a very well-defined center.
Low level.
Low-level circulation is very well defined. And what's unclear about this storm is where it's going to go. You know, Anna and Bill pretty much we could figure out in a hurry, but this one looks like it's going to sit around a while.
Alrighty.
So let's go ahead and talk about it as we show you the latest from the Hurricane Center. Again, if they decide to name this Claudette, it will be done so around 5 o'clock today. So as soon as that advisory comes in, even if they don't name it, we'll still be getting a new advisory in here for you. But as of 11 a.m., 31.7 north, 73.2 west, approximately 280 miles to the south-southeast of Cape Hatteras, the center, winds at 35 and is nearly stationary. Let's go ahead and check things out with regards to what else is happening with this. I have another satellite perspective here I want to show you. This is the close-up visible satellite imagery, and you can see in and around the center some of the thunderstorms that developed earlier. This big cluster just blew up here. Here's the center right in through here, spinning around. This one get pushed off to the north. Looks like there is a little southerly shear with this. So you notice how these storms are getting lifted off to the north. But look at this, just behind that cell or thunderstorm area, there's another one developing. So, you know, this is trying to get itself organized. But as I mentioned with Declan, the whole western side, pretty much void of the tropical storm force winds. They did find winds as high as 50 knots and a central pressure down to about 1,003 millibars. If you just were to plot the earlier message from the Hurricane Hunter and the one that just recently came out, it does indicate a little bit of a north-northeast movement. So, you know, perhaps it's close enough to be stationary to call it stationary, but it is appearing to move off to the north-northeast a little bit. Again, there's that one thunderstorm, and here comes the next one, as you can see from the 15-minute infrared satellite picture. And as I was talking about with Declan, what makes it unclear is the steering. What's going to push this thing along north, south, east, or west? Right now, it appears the strongest core winds is actually off to the north and east. But there is a very broad trough here sitting over the northeastern Gulf in Florida. So perhaps some of the southerly winds with this, along with the western extension of what we call the Bermuda High, are helping to push some of these thunderstorms off toward the north. But we do think there will be, over the next 24 hours or so, more ridging, more of a tendency for those storms not to be pushed off to the north. We'll just have to wait and see. There's a lot of uncertainties. And let's say this does sit around for a couple of days. It's going to generate a lot of waves if it develops. So you want to keep that in mind if you're going to be taking a little vacation on the beaches of the eastern seaboard. Declan.
Well, Jim, it's been a hot weekend for a good part of the country. In fact, with lots of sunshine today, temperatures shot up into the upper 80s early and have now managed to work their way into the 90s. Boston will be one of the few places that probably won't hit 90 today, but that doesn't mean it wasn't hot. As temperatures climbed into the upper 80s, many residents headed for the banks of the Charles River. Luckily, the humidity wasn't too unbearable, but that's about to change as the work week begins. Both the humidity and temperatures will be on the rise. Expect a high in the mid-90s tomorrow. And here comes the heat. And again, as Jim alluded to on the water vapor imagery, a lot of uncertainty as to the upper air pattern sitting over parts of the western Atlantic. But a lot more certainty as to the heat. 96 at D.C., 91 up at New York, Boston in the upper 80s, likewise at Albany. And then we start to drop it back just a tad as we head west to Rochester, 84, 79 degrees in Erie, Pennsylvania. Now you can see the clear slot of skies across New York, Pennsylvania. We have a fairly thick blanket of cloud cover coming in from Canada and crossing northern New England. So that's cut the temperatures down significantly, and under the clouds some passing showers pushing southeast at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. But here's the center of the surface high over the central Appalachians, west-northwesterly flow, and that flow of air actually sinking or descending down towards the coast here in the mid-Atlantic, and that actually adds a couple of degrees on top of the heat we'd already have. In the upper Midwest, a trough of low pressure. Now some showers and thunderstorms have already developed. We're going to see, in fact, eventually pretty intense storms developing over a fairly large area in the upper Midwest. We'll talk about that with your forecast. You can see scattered showers and storms in Mississippi. We've had a couple of big storms in Palm Beach, Broward, Dade counties, and reports of hail up along I-75 and northwest 186th Street. Metro Dade police reporting a funnel cloud was sighted. And you'll notice as we go into the northern Rockies, we can see high pressure here and then extending all the way south into the southwest. Now, not only warm, but it's doggone humid out there. Look at these dew point temperatures. 72 at Chicago, 77 as we head north to Green Bay, 74 around the Twin Cities. And it looks like with all that warmth and humidity in the atmosphere, the cold front coming through, severe storms in the forecast. In fact, Jim just tells me the Storm Prediction Center, Norman, has issued a weather watch, a severe thunderstorm watch that'll be going into effect shortly for parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, and Nebraska, and Iowa. All right, let's take a look at what's happening right now. You can see the storm.